Good afternoon, everybody. Great to be here. My name is Matt O'Connor. I'm with People Insight by Higher Road. I'll share a little bit more about People Insight in a minute. I guess I'm between you and lunch, which is a little bit better than being after lunch, right? So we'll try to get through this and have a little bit of fun and hopefully be interactive as well. I work for People Insight. I've been helping HR and TA leaders solve problems for 20 years. I've been working with those, with different groups. It's interesting, when I was listening to Jeff from Lytics earlier, who was here for that session? A bunch of you, yeah. Jeff was talking about being the former CHRO and CFO and kind of got me thinking to, before, I was in this role and in this industry, I was an actuarial analyst and a statistics underwriter, the son of a math teacher. That was kind of where I started. And, now here I am in a go-to-market kind of function in people analytics. So you may hear old Matt, that Matt come out a little bit, or, we'll go back and forth. But I thought that was an interesting dynamic from Jeff. And I'd like to have Fabrizio introduce himself and tell you a little bit about Go Easy, his company.
Sure. Yeah, it's funny because I also have a mathematics bachelor degree. So,
see,
so happy to be here. Very nice to be in front of a lot of technical folks here, but also HR, and I think diversity is a thing here, which I love it. I'm a director of Total Rewards. My career was mostly built on compensation consultancy. As well as creating some models and helping companies develop their incentive plans and whatnot. And by opportunity, I guess, ended up with the people analytics function of Go Easy as well. So my umbrella includes also, comp and ben, HR systems, as well as analytics for Go Easy. And I've been there for the last almost 5 years now. What is Go Easy? I'm not sure if you've heard of it. We have a few brands. Brand number one, which is how we were founded back in 1990s, was called Easy Home in the past. It's a lease to own business. It's a retail-like business, lots of stores across the country, about 100 of them to date. But then after a few years, I think it was 2012, another business grew out of Easy Home, which is called the Easy Financial, which is a subprime lending financial business. And with that, another retail-like business where we have about 300 branches across Canada from coast to coast. And then finally, we have a third line of business, which is LendCare. It's a POS lending business. It's a business to merchant to consumer type business. So that's about Go Easy, and the company has grown a lot, and I hope I can give you some ideas as to how the people analytics function grew as well with Go Easy.
Great. And just a little bit about People Insight by Higher Road. So Higher Road, we're a global HR tech company, and we help companies with onboarding, recruiting, learning solutions, and our flagship People Analytics solution. And we do what most people analytics solutions do. We unify HR and TA data, other forms of people data, financial data. We bring it into a uniform platform, give you actionable insights across that data. And we're a little bit unique. We do that in less than a week. You don't need data expertise to use our solution. I think you'll hear a little bit about that. We also support our solution with a team of analysts. Those expert analysts work with our customers to be an extension of their team and give them customized visualizations and AI-powered insights, really to bring some unique perspectives to their business. So without any further ado, let's jump in here. So what you're going to hear today from Fabrizio, he's going to talk a little bit about the journey that Go Easy has been on in people analytics, and we've heard a lot of different points in time that people are in their journey today. He's going to talk a little bit about the business case, building that business case internally and how that evolved, the evolution of the program, where it started, where it is today, and then a walkthrough of how, some examples of how that's driving impact throughout the organization and how it's kind of proliferated and created a lot of value internally for Go Easy. So in terms of launching a people analytics program, look, we've heard that there are a lot of blockers, right? Everybody in this room knows the importance of it. And over the last couple of days, I mean, people have talked about selling it internally and you know, all of the challenges that it takes to launch a program. So Fabrizio, why don't we jump in? You know, tell us a little
Sure.
bit about Go Easy.
Yeah, no, I have a feeling that, again, because of the diversity of this room, that we will have multiple, different stages of people analytics here, whether, not initiated, intermediate to advanced. And this is how we got the buy-in, which is, I want to say 9 years ago that we started a partnership with People Insights. It was a one-man function at that point. It was combined with talent and rewards and payroll at the same time. So it was literally a one person trying to come up with a function that didn't exist in the past. And it all starts with the business requesting data. It's like, what HR, can you send us what's the turnover rate for the last month, right? Mm-hmm. And then the ability to generate those insights and those KPIs vary. And in our case, back in the day, it was pretty rough to get to the number timely and with quality, right? So it was a little bit, pull data from the system and try to use the Excel and calculate that and send. So there were situations where we were, a month late to send the data just because it wasn't too super easy to calculate what they wanted. So the business case was to some degree simple enough to offer the business, what if you would have access to what you're asking for faster, more quality, ability to drill down, and historically look in the past and see how the numbers were looking versus now. Would that make sense to you? Is that something that we would want to move forward with? And not only that, and obviously they said, yeah, that's great, how much that's going to cost us. And then the cost piece came into play where we were able to evaluate, and there are a bunch of, I think it's in the screen right now, the turnover, right? So turnover is a big thing for companies like us and obviously like yours as well. But you can see that the numbers, those are actual numbers, like 59% turnover. It's pretty high. However, it's retail standard type of turnover. So what we did here is we looked into the internet, just turnover calculators. So let's see how much it costs a turnover, right? And we all know at this point it's not cheap. So you're talking about recruitment costs, learning costs, talking about productivity losses. So we were able to come up with a number, this magical number, which was, if we were able to save 3 people from leaving Go Easy, not 3%, I'm talking about 3 people, it would pay for either an FTE or a big solution that we were talking about. So this was enough for the business to say, all right, so here's the money, go invest in this thing. We really need to move forward with a more advanced way of looking into turnover specifically.
That's great. So now you have support internally, you've got buy-in. The age-old question, we've heard it many times today, seen several examples of build versus buy, right? Do I go and hire the resources and free up some of that money that you talked about and build it internally and all that comes with that? Or do I go buy a solution off the shelf? Or do I do a combination of both, which we've also heard a lot about over the last couple of days as well, right? I mean, there's 3 kind of big considerations, simple considerations when you think about this, right? Am I unique, right, as a business? Does anybody else in the same situation as you? Are your needs unique? Or are there other people that are going through that same challenge? What's your budget? How much can you get, short-term, long-term? Can your budget evolve? What's involved in that? But really, it's also about time, right? Speed to value. How quickly do you need to bring impact and insights to the organization? And that's really the key in terms of build versus buy, thinking through those 3 things. Obviously, there's a lot more behind that, but talk about your process and your decision.
Yeah, no, look, I feel like this is a discussion I have every night with my wife. Do we buy food or do we cook today? So, and the analogy is true for the things that are in consideration here is, first thing, do we have time to cook? do we have the ingredients, and do we know how to cook what we want to cook?
Of course, you're going to go home tonight well fed. So that's a problem.
Absolutely,
That's
yeah.
a problem.
So those things are in play when you evaluate any capability that you currently don't have in the company. And that, back in the day, and I think I mentioned that, it was a one-man show, and most likely not, with this skill set necessary to build what we wanted. But not only that, the company did have at the time an analytics function. As a financial institution, we have risk is super important. So the customer's risk and their credit score. So there's a big analytics function there, and the team that have their own platforms and ways to do analytics, and with customer data and with market data. We thought about using this team internally, which is again under the risk team, to build this thing for us. But then we assessed, are they going to have time for us? Are they going to have the same skill set that we need to build these things? And it was just easy to decide that it was much more convenient, and the business would benefit more if we were to go with People Insights, which is what we did. And they are, from the tools that it's provided, the time to response that we get from People Insight, and I think you mentioned a week. I want to say it's even faster. So at these days, if there's any new dashboard that we want to come up with, we just, we have a very good service as well, which wasn't part of the decision back in the day, but we just renewed for another couple of years with People Insights. And although we do have a bigger team right now, and some of the capabilities are building up, so more competition, coming up, we still decided to, renew it and expand the partnership. And part of it is because of the services as well. So they're not only skill set, time to response, but also the service that is provided by People Insights were a big decision point for us to buy.
Great, appreciate that. In terms of the evolution of adoption, so actually, quick show of hands. So who in the audience would consider themselves and their company, organization, early on in in their people analytics journey? Okay. Who's been at the people analytics function for a while, has implemented some things, but still doesn't have it all figured out? Maybe has a Okay. And who would consider themselves pretty mature in terms of their people analytics function, solution, output, impact, et cetera? Yeah, so
Couple hands.
I mean, it's a wide range, right? There's a big evolution, there's a big gap between where people are, and no two organizations are really alike. So you talked about the initial adoption, how you sent some of the information out, how was it received? Talk through that. The C-suite, what did they think of it?
It was at the time we first launched it, and the way we did it is we had this dashboards built, and we have like right now maybe 70 dashboards with People Insights. What we do is we consolidate the main dashboards into a presentation, and then we send it out to the business on a monthly basis, right? And with that, we write some insights, we take a look at the evolution from last month, and we send that on a monthly basis to the business. The first reaction was, this is great. And there are emails that we thought about putting some screenshots here of people back in the day saying, this is great. So number one, it was very well received. Number two, the consistency of the data and how it is shown in front of the leadership, it builds trust. Then it's easy to continue the evolution. So we're talking about evolution. So once you get the cadence, you get the trust, it's easy to come up with more. Then it's easy to scale the business. So getting more money from the business to continue evolving your people analytics function just gets easier as you go because of trust, because the consistency, the cadence, as well as, again, the service. So the same thing that we get from People Insights when it comes to service and the value that they add, we try to pass it along to the business as well. those things combined makes it very easy to continue investing and evolving in this department.
That's great. Let's talk about a couple of examples. You're really passionate about this. You shared some stats, but tell us about a couple of the use cases. Really, how have you used this internally at the business?
Yep. Well, this is a real dashboard with dummy data. So just pause like that. Yeah. But this is how the dashboard looks like. This is our main turnover dashboard, and it tells what is the year-to-date annualized turnover this year versus last year. As well as it breaks down, the second line is SMBA. BM is store manager and branch manager. So what's the turnover for that specific category? And then you have it broken down by business unit. So we have Easy Financial, Easy Home, Support Center, the NSSC, which is our call center, and Land Care, the other line of business. It always shows what's the turnover this year versus last year as a comparative form. And then the bottom chart shows the monthly turnover annualized. Right, so this is what we send on a monthly basis. And again, we write insights over it to send to the business. But what I think is interesting is that we have a lot of filters and the ability to drill it down at our fingertips. And I don't know how many of you are following the immigration rules and policies that have been changed just recently in Canada. We are heavily indexed in that specific demographic. So 20%-ish, which is at the maximum capacity of our employees, are new to Canada, are on a work permit. When we got the announcements from the government that the rules are going to change, what this means for us is that we may no longer be able to hire that specific demographic in 2025, 2026, 2027. Just to put everybody on the same page here, Canada has decreased the maximum number of immigrants by about 20% from 2024 to 2025, and it's going to decrease another 20% in 2026, and another 10%, if not mistaken, in 2027. So it's a very big drop in terms of this talent pool that we were benefiting from and using it as our talent source that we won't have. So what this means for us is that, well, this is going to impact turnover. So the first thing that we wanted to do for the business is somewhat reactive, somewhat proactive, is what is the impact? So we tried to build a model as to what is the turnover for this specific population, for those who are on a work permit. And we started to crack in our head, like, how do we do this? Do we get data just for, the work permit type of employees and try to estimate how much that's going to increase and to come up with what's the additional effort in staffing that we're going to have for this population. And to do that is not easy, right? So because you have plenty of ways to calculate turnover. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with how turnover is calculated. It seems simple, it's how many you terminated in the numerator, and then you have a denominator, which is the active number of employees. But you got to get to the consensus. Is this the active number of employees at the end of the year, at the end of the month? Is this the average of the month? What is the denominator you use? And once you extract the data in a specific month, you may get one data, you extract the data the month after, you may change back and get you some concerns about the data. So we're cracking our heads in how to do this, and thankfully, we had that data in People Insights. So for us, it was just a matter of using a filter. This same page, we could select new to Canada or work permit, a yes, and it shifted the chart here and showed us exactly what is the turnover for that population. This helped us estimate what the outcome would be and the effort, specifically in talent acquisition, how much more they're going to have to staff or overstaff. The decision hasn't been made yet on what the solution is going to be. We're more in a wait and see approach, but just the easiness of using People Insights to come up with numbers and KPIs at our fingertips.
And you mentioned earlier that turnover was almost 60%, but then when you started managing it, putting this data in the manager's hands, et cetera, it went down to, I think, 36%.
Yep.
And how are you using this with some of those, some of those leaders, and
Yep.
how are they using it? That'd be great.
Yeah, so turnover is again our most important KPI, and it's used in the operator's balance scorecard. So the simplest way to look at it is their compensation depends on turnover metrics, right? So we have, because we are spread across Canada, we have regional managers, we have branch managers. So the structure is branch managers and FSRs, the financial service representatives. Those are the front line. We have regional managers, respond to region, and then we have divisional vice presidents. So they respond to a bigger portion of the country. Each one of those roles are going to be evaluated in their turnover specifically, and this is going to impact, again, their balance scorecard and eventually their incentives and compensation.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Well, that's a good segue into the compensation topic.
There you go. Yeah, well, I'm in total rewards. I'm not sure how many of you are. I think I've heard that there are some total rewards compensation. I'm not sure if you fell into the people analytics by accident like me, or if this was something by design. But compensation is definitely a passion of mine. And although this chart here was very recently built and not yet developed, just to show the easiness of how the request was put together and what the intention was with the business, was to essentially just, what the request was, is can we have a compensation blueprint that the regional managers, the DVPs can look at, and based on their, we have here club tier, right? So we have different types of branches depending on their size of their loan book. Can we get details into what is the hiring rate for these folks? What is the average base salary for these folks? What is their club allowance? What is it's not in here either, but the incentive portion as well. So this is, again, it's a compensation blueprint that allows them to make decision when it comes to compensation. And it's so easy to build. Again, we put the request together, we sketched it on a PowerPoint, brought some numbers together, and they were able to turn it around very quickly because, again, the data was there already.
Great. All right, we want to make sure we have some time for questions. So let's leave the audience with 3 big takeaways from your evolution at GoEasy and the
Yep.
program you put in place.
Sure. Sounds good. Look, if there's something that I will always keep thinking of, especially when I look at my CHRO in the corridors, is a roadmap. He asks for a roadmap on a daily basis. Everything that I go with him for, in terms of, like, I want to do this, I think this is important for us to keep building this function, he comes in and asks, okay, so what's your roadmap? So I think that what I want to leave you guys with is have a roadmap, pretty much, is have an understanding of the stage you are at from a people analytics perspective, know what's your next step, know what is your medium-term step, and have your wish list for what do you want for the future. So this is from the roadmap. Proactive versus reactive KPIs, this is something that I came up with just trying to leave you guys with some ideas as to how to think about KPIs, which is you have the reactive KPIs are going to be those that the business is going to come to you. You don't need to worry about thinking about them because the business is going to come and say, where's my turnover rate? So those are the reactive one and probably the core ones. But now data is available these days to a degree that is never seen before, which means that the ability to create new KPIs is almost limitless. So the challenge that I'll put here for you guys is to think about what proactively can you think to use your data, thinking of obviously you need to understand the structure of your data to come up with new ideas for the business to support them in ways that they might not be thinking of. And then third, I mentioned it a few times, but the value is in the service. It's much easier when they trust on you and they have a good response time and quality. to get the buy-in for anything you want in the company. I feel like just making an analogy, when you go to a restaurant and you order something and something comes, not exactly what you ordered, if the service is good, you'll forgive them. But if the person is rude or they're not really looking at you, and it takes time for them to kind of fix that, you might think twice if you're going to come back to that restaurant. So the same thing here applies. Regardless of you have a wonderful dashboard, the value is going to be in the service here.
Great. Thanks, Fabrizio. We'd love to open it up to questions.
Thanks for the presentation. So I see the partnership with People Insight and how it helps. We also use them. So you're able to scale much faster, right? But how do you see the future of it, right? Like, do you see, you said you're also hiring more people, so like enterprise data, how do you connect HR with their enterprise data? So what's your vision for the people analytics as a whole?
Yeah, let me call my CHRO to see if his thoughts are. Yeah, I feel like what's in our roadmap, again, the roadmap is we are at a stage that we're not fully descriptive, right? So if you think of all stages of analytics, and the reason why I think we're not fully there yet is because there's some data sitting outside of People Insights, for example, right? So I think the very next step for us is to make sure that, one, the data is standardized. So there's a big effort and a big goal for this year to standardize all the data we have internally. Secondly, is to make sure that they are in a database for us to be able to create insights. And then when it comes to midterm development is, I think we've heard in one of the talks yesterday, connecting this data with the business data, with financial data. We're calling it advanced analytics, not sure if this is the right term, but at this point, we're only looking at HR data, not necessarily being able to connect with the productivity and all that. So I think that's the future for us, right? I don't see us moving away from People Insights in the near future. I think those things can happen in parallel, and it just supports us in a way that I see People Insights honestly as an FTE. It's like it's someone that I can, just reach out and can you put this dashboard together? We need this. And even if we go the route of putting all our data in the company's data lake, I still see us using People Insights and having some benefits out of it.
And I would just add that we are part of the discussion and in preparation for this was they don't have AI turned on yet. But that's one of the roadmap discussions for them to turn on, our AI functionality in 2025. But they want to get that complete data set in there first. What else? Anything else? I hear a couple stomachs growling.
Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation. Having total rewards and people analytics as functions that you oversee, how do you prioritize those things? Because I find a lot of people in this room probably have multiple responsibilities, and we want to keep pushing forward the people analytics, but sometimes I feel that's the thing that gets pushed to the side because there's more immediate fires to put out. So how do you handle that balance?
I have been fortunate to have a good framework for compensation and benefits. So I'll say that although maybe compensation is probably 20 to 30% of my time specifically, obviously that I have someone specifically looking at compensation only. And it's a lot of work, I get you. And when you merit cycle, bonus cycle, long-term incentive, benefits escalations, and all those things, it does require some focus on that. but I try to separate my time into the things that are, day to day and have already a good framework for execution, and the things that are still greenfield and I can influence strategically as to how the future of the whole HR department is going to look like. So, my perspective again, it feels like the analytics is more of a greenfield than the compensation. So I try to put more effort in there. But again, I don't work alone, right? So I'm looking at one of the people on my team here. She manages the HR systems, and it's fun. I think it gives you the motivation, I guess, also to look at your systems, what's your roadmap, and all the manual trackers we still have versus the systems that we have versus the company's IT and how those things get integrated. But again, I feel like I'm only allowed to do that and to spend more time into that because my compensation is kind of a cruise flight.
I want to, I know we're at time, so I just want to thank everybody for their time. Thanks for being here. Great to see all of you. Really great conference the last couple of days. And a round of applause for Fabrizio.
Thank
Good
you.
stuff. Wonderful.